Okay, hello everybody. I'm really happy today to welcome Dr. Cheng Mien Wee, Director of the Pre-U Studies at Sunway. Welcome to KTJ.
Thank you very much, Emma. Really delighted to be with you and glad to visit KTJ again.
Yes, after doing them online for a while, yep. So it's great to be here in person. So really excited to talk to you about all the different pre-U courses that you have at Sunway College. Our Form 5 students, they've just finished their IGCSE trials. They're about to go in to do their real IGCSE exams in May and June. And we want to help them think about what they're going to do after their IGCSEs. And I know you guys have some great pre-U courses. So happy to talk to you about them.
Well, thank you very much. And if I may start off by wishing good luck to all the IGCSE students, for your upcoming exams. And thank you, Emma, for opening the window, as it were, to or the lens, for our students to consider various options. Indeed, the A levels would be a very good progression, and I know that they would and could consider at KTJ. At Sunway College, we have a wider range because we also cater to students coming from various streams. I'd like to maybe categorically divide them into maybe the academic pathway and the more careers-related pathway, right? So in the academic pathway, similar to the A levels would be the Australian Year 12 program. We call it the Australian Matriculation, or AUSMAT, and we run the Western Australian Certificate of Education. Similar to that, we have the Canadian Year 12 program, which we call the CIMP, or the Canadian International Matriculation Program.
And is that different to Canadian pre-U?
It's actually the same as Canadian pre-U. Okay. That was the name used by other colleges. Essentially, the Canadian pre-U, or the CIMP, which Sunway College offers, involves the Ontario Secondary School Diploma, or the OSSD, which is a globally recognized qualification. Okay. Yeah. So aside the Australian Matriculation, the Canadian Year 12, or CIMP, we are also home to two university foundation pathways, namely Sunway University's foundation programs, the Foundation in Arts and the Foundation in Science and Technology, as well as the Monash University Foundation Year. Oh, I do want to pop in that we also offer the International Baccalaureate Diploma Program, or the IBDP, but that would be at the Sunway International School. So those would be the academic options. I mentioned as well the career pathways, and students can nowadays consider diplomas in various professions. So someone who's 17 or 18 may already have an idea about being in business, or pursuing a career in technology or computer science. So there are many diploma pathways at Sunway College, as well as Sunway University, that focuses or specializes in various vocations and professions. Yeah.
You have some certificates as well. What are those in?
Right. Well, thank you for that question. So certificate programs are essentially programs that pathway students from the O levels or IGCSE into a diploma program, where because students lack a few credits, so generally the diploma pathways would require students to have 3 IGCSE credits. And sometimes students may just be a little bit short on a particular credit. So the certificates come in as a bridging program.
Understand. So what is a credit? When it says 3 credits, what is a credit?
Right. So if we are talking about the IGCSE, grades of C's and above would be the credit. Yeah. So generally students would require not just a pass grade, but a grade at credit level and above.
Okay. And does it matter what that subject is in? What is the C in? Could it be in any subject?
Great question. Thank you for that. Essentially not, but there are some diploma or pre-university programs that require, for example, a credit in English. So we may ask for 3 credits, but with a credit in English, or 5 credits, including a credit in English. But not all programs require that.
Okay. And what about maths? Is that something that you have requirements in?
Interestingly, English would feature more as a required or prerequisite, math less often, unless a student wants to pursue computer science, for example. And usually if the student eventually wants to pursue actuarial studies, let's say, we would then ask that they also have a credit in math. But it's not as common as English being the prerequisite.
Take note, English students. It's a very important subject.
Exactly.
for all these different programs, what's the advantage of doing those? Why are they different to A levels? Or in what way? What are the main differences?
I think as educators, Emma, you and I would agree that every child, every person is different and unique and gifted in different ways. So the strengths of the A-level programs your students, I think, know. So I would just focus on perhaps students who would prefer something that is that allows them to express themselves in other ways outside of written exams and formal assessments. So in diploma programs and in some of our pre-university programs, like our Canadian International Matriculation Program, students can actually exhibit their talents or that they have mastered a particular topic or skill through projects, through presentations, sometimes through even the way they manage their conversations. So conversations can also be assessed. So for example, in our Canadian International Matriculation Program, or the CIMP, teachers assess students using what we call COPS, C-O-P. And COP stands for conversations, how you converse in the class, how you participate, observation, the teacher would observe how you handle certain questions or scenarios, as well as products. The product could be an essay, or the product could be a project, a piece of project, or a presentation. So students who, for example, want to pursue a career, let's say in, in film production or in music or in marketing for that matter, may like to engage in a pre-university pathway or a diploma pathway that allows them to begin to develop these skills, the skills of communicating in not just the written form, but in other ways.
Yep. So yeah, I mean, we were talking about that earlier. Not every student performs to their expectations and our expectations in exams. Some students just, their brain freezes when they get in an exam hall. And so this opportunity to be assessed in a different way through projects and coursework and participation is really, really great. And I guess developing skills that they can use after they've finished the course as well, when they're in the workplace.
Absolutely. So if I were to just use an example of a student who wants to be a journalist, we would think that the student would need to be very good in writing, and certainly so. Yeah, the student would need to be, have strong writing skills. But equally, the student would need to have good communication skills, perhaps even a strong EQ factor. You know, and all these would be developed through some of the pathways that I've mentioned, like the CIMP or the OSMAT, where students' assessments or grades are not just totally on time-based assessments or written assessments. Projects come into play, communication activities, etc.
Okay. And so some of these programs, you're talking about Australia, you're talking about Canada, and I think you have the American degree program as well. Are they all at your Sunway campus, or do you also transfer to those countries as well?
Thank you for that question. We are actually very proud of our American degree transfer program. It allows students with O levels or IGCSE credits or results to actually commence with an American degree program or studies directly. So the child does not require to do a pre-university qualifications like the A levels or the OSMAT. And students they do not necessarily need to transfer to an American university, because today students can complete an entire 4-year American degree at Sunway, but they have the option of transferring if they want to. And many do, because we live in a very, international space, and young people would want to explore. So many do transfer to an American university, but not all. Also in our Canadian program and Australian matriculation program, students don't necessarily go to Canada per se, or Australian universities per se. These qualifications are globally recognized, and so many stay on in Malaysia because we have many international universities or internationally oriented universities like Sunway, and some of them choose to continue overseas. So that's another option.
And obviously staying in Malaysia is a lot cheaper.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Being at home has many, many advantages.
It does. Yes, it does. So all these different courses, do they all have the same application deadlines and the same application process?
Generally, yes, we welcome students to put in their expression of interest on application when they finish their major exams. So the IGCSE would be one major exam. And sometimes students ask us, do we need the actual results or forecast results? We can consider an application based on forecast results, but the offer would be based on the actual results.
Got it. So are you saying the best time for them to apply for all of these different programs is when they finish their exams? So you say mid-June, and they're waiting for their exam results?
They can apply as long as they have a set of forecast results. So if the school is, some schools allow students or they offer students a set of predicted grades before the actual exam. So if we're talking about the May sitting, some students may apply in April because the school has offered them some predicted grades, and therefore we would be able to consider them for our August intake, for example. So the moment the IGCSE results are released, the timing could be that they could start on their pre-university or diploma or American degree transfer program almost,
I mean,
after.
we do offer predicted grades for all of our students. They're really aware, they're going to be very aware of what their predicted grades are. So that could be possible. But the start date, August, we don't get the results until mid-August. Are you starting earlier?
Most of our programs where we take in students with the IGCSE will be timed after the results are released.
Not much chance for them to relax, though.
True,
Just basically July and half of August to recover
right.
from their exams.
That's right. Well, maybe on that point, I could share that if they don't want to start immediately in August, they could always have a break and join us in the January, February intake of the next year. So we do have 3 intakes in a year for most of our programs. That would be 3 intakes.
Okay. So there's August, there's January, and
there would be one in between April to June. There's potentially another window of intake. So depending on the program, some diploma programs have an April intake. Some pre-U programs also have an April as well as July intake. So it would be essentially the early part of the year, like end of January, early February, because the IGCSE results of the October-November sitting would be out. And then we would have another intake around June, July, and the next one would be in August and September of the year.
Okay, so it does fit in with our exams. Great. Right. Can students kind of live on campus? I mean, obviously we're a boarding school. We have some foreign students. We have students that come from East Malaysia and way up north as well. Can they live on campus?
They certainly can, Emma. A large number of our students actually reside on campus. Our campus, as you may know, is in Sunway City, Kuala Lumpur, quite a vibrant township or community with the mall and the theme park and the hospital being in,
lots of temptations there with the Sunway Lagoon next door.
That's right, that's right. So interestingly, in recent years, we've found even students who reside within a 30 to 50 kilometer radius choosing to reside on campus in our Sunway run accommodation, because the traffic sometimes can be quite overwhelming, and to commute from wherever they are, if it's more than 20, 30 kilometers, could actually take a lot of time if you do that on a day-to-day basis. But to answer your question, we do have accommodation. We have students opting to live in a single room or in twin shared rooms, and some of the accommodation facility is actually most of them are very, very close by, literally on campus. But even the most distant one at our waterfront, which is our newer blocks of residence, it would be probably 15-minute easy walk on our canopy walks or our raised, linked bridges. So it's again very safe and very accessible.
Okay. And what sort of pastoral care do you have on campus? Because some of them would be young. They'll have just finished their IGCSEs.
Correct, yes. The community is a very inclusive community, as well as we have full-time teams that look into giving pastoral care. So if a student is residing on campus, there would be a full-time resident team, first of all. That would be available to our boarding students or our resident students, as we term them, 24/7. Again, Emma, as you would remember, we were once upon a time 17 and 18 years old. So they are also at the point of wanting to be fairly independent and resourceful on their own. So if students choose to not stay with us, they choose to stay perhaps with family around the campus or at home. Whilst they're on campus, we also have what we call guidance teachers, and we don't call them pastoral teams. We have a team of teachers whom we call our We Care professionals, and they work closely with our guidance department as well as our counselors, to take care of our students' well-being, our students' extracurricular activities for that matter. Yeah, so giving them that very holistic advice or direction in terms of how they could spend time outside of school or outside of lessons.
Okay, great. And we were talking about applications, and I guess the cost of these courses, they all differ, do they?
Yes, they do. Yeah, some of our pre-U programs are just a year long. Others could be slightly more than a year. Most of our diploma programs are 2 years in duration. A few maybe 2.5 years because it involves internship. And so depending on the length of the program, depending on the type of program, the fees would vary. So again, information is available. There's a lot of information, so I won't give it over this short talk. I would encourage students to get in touch with Sunway. Just Google Sunway College or Sunway University. We'd be happy to, whether it's online or through the phone, offer all the details.
Okay. And do you have any scholarships?
Oh, thank you for that question, and I'm sorry I missed that prompt. So Sunway College and Sunway University, they are institutions owned and governed by the Jeffrey Chia Foundation. So I'm very heartened, Emma, to share that there is a range of scholarships available to students. The first would be what we call academic or merit scholarships. These would be scholarships given to students based entirely on their IGCSE results. There are generally no interviews involved, and I would encourage students to put in their scholarship applications within 2 weeks of them receiving their actual IGCSE results or starting with the pre-U program of their choice or the diploma program of their choice. The scholarship committee is a bit fussy over timelines, so that's important for students to remember. Aside that, we also have a range of continuing scholarships, so I'd also like students to know that if they did our pre-U or diploma programs and choose to continue at Sunway University, there would be also a range of continuing scholarships available to them.
So it leads to some pathways after they've finished at Sunway College as well.
Yes.
And just kind of going back to sort of applications, if you're a foreign student, do you get a visa? Do you help people get their visas to study?
Yes. So most certainly, international students would require an international student visa. And just as I mentioned earlier, we have a full-time pastoral care team. There is a full-time international office team that would help students with changing of visas. So assuming a student is in an international school or a boarding school like KTJ, they would be on one set of visas. We would help them to convert that visa into a visa for them to study at Sunway College or Sunway University.
Okay, great. So just kind of going forward on the next few weeks then for our students, some of the things for them, what are some of the key takeaways that they should be thinking about? I guess where the program might lead them, the kind of credits that they need. What other things should they look at? Maybe the breadth of the course. Do you have sort of like modules that you must do and then you have modules that you can pick? What should they be thinking about when they're looking at all of these different courses that you've got?
Right. I must say being a young person today is rather challenging because there are just so many options available. So I'd like to go back to basics. And by that, Emma, I mean, for every student, I would encourage them to reflect on themselves. There's so many things around us, and we can possibly consider everything, but we can't do everything at the same time. Yeah. So in reflecting on one own self, I would tend to suggest they think about their strengths, their academic strengths, what subjects they're interested in. Emma, you and I, we talked about the importance of English and math, and so we should consider, or children or students should consider which areas they're stronger in. Would it be the humanities? Would it be the sciences, or the qualitative subjects, or the more quantitative ones? Next, I think young people today are very blessed because of the the innumerable options available. And so I think they can consider interest. What are they interested in? Because something that they pursue today is likely, it does not mean that they have to pursue it for the rest of their lives, but it's very likely they would be involved in that form of profession or endeavor for relatively large part of their future lives. So I think interest can be a factor.
You have to enjoy it if you're going to be studying it for a couple of years, right?
That's right. Yes, exactly. And although professions morph, there is this very cliche-ish statement nowadays that we use. I think it goes something like, the jobs of tomorrow haven't been invented today, or we don't know what the jobs tomorrow will be like. And there's a lot of truth in that. At the same time, whoever is working the job is a person with his or her own interests, strengths, purposes. And I think all that would factor well when it's considered, in terms of jobs and careers evolving. Because, the common factor, I think, is the person himself or herself in that equation. Yeah. And I think the last part of it is something we talked about, Emma, just before this session, and it's about skills. Different professions require different skills. So are we, firstly, inherently one who possesses those skills, or are we willing to develop those skills? So, for example, I often would use the journalism as an example, because often my students think, oh, I want to be a journalist, and so I must be very strong in writing. But a journalist also needs very strong verbal communication skills, EQ, soft skills, because it's about engaging with other people so that you can get into the depth or the bottom of the story, as they would say. And so developing those skills are just as important as their written skills. So some have it, and that's great, it's a blessing. But for others, we may need to develop it. But then, like you and I say, if you're interested and you're passionate about that field, you would go and get those sets of skills.
Commit to work on them. Yeah, okay. So there's a lot of opportunities there, lots of sort of non-A-level courses that we've looked at with lots of different routes, and they lead to different things. So that's a lot of information. Where would they find out more information about each of those different programs?
Great, thank you. Firstly, before I go into how they can access the information, I do want to also add that Sunway is also very well known for its professional accounting courses. So if there are students interested to become, to hold the ACCA credential or the ICAEW credential, which are professional chartered accounting qualifications, Sunway College would also be a very good place to pursue that, because we are a center for accounting excellence.
Would they study just accounting?
They would study just accounting.
Okay, so you've really got to know you want to do accounting.
That's right.
Okay.
That's right. So back to your question about information, I would encourage students, because they're all digital natives nowadays, go online. Sunway's website is sunway.edu.my. Our contact information is there. As a matter of fact, there will be many links or many web pages where they can get information on the subjects that we offer, the nature of the assessments, the duration, project work if it's required, internship if it's required, and yes, the intakes would be there as well. Students may not be able to find fees on the website, but don't worry, just get in touch with us and we would be able to help them there.
Okay, and I guess there are links, contact us, and that you've got teams of people.
Right. And scholarships. Information on scholarships are available as well.
Okay, I think that's all of my questions. Do you have anything else you want to add?
No, except to maybe just add that it's not, pardon the phrase, but it's not a do or die in terms of deciding what they want to do today. I think any program, any educational pathway that is offered by an established institution would lead a student somewhere. And I think whatever it is, even if a child or student changes his or her mind at the end of finishing a pre-U program or a diploma, it's not time lost, because they've learned a whole set of skills that would be very relevant. So I just hope that what I mean in saying this, my dear young friends, is to take pressure off your shoulders. Great if you know exactly what you want and pursue it and be on track. But if you are still exploring, it's also a fine place to be, to explore what you want to do. So go for it.
And Many of our students are only 15, just turning 16. They're going to be very different people by the time they get to 18, 19. So we were just talking earlier about keeping doors open. Just make sure you've got a credible program that matches your grades, that matches the assessment criteria, that's going to really play to your strengths, something that you're really interested in. And if you're not too sure, just keep it broad. And then you can always start specializing a little bit later on.
Exactly, yes.
And have fun and enjoy it and develop lots of skills along the way.
Yes. I would sometimes argue that someone would probably enjoy what they are doing eventually when they've checked off all the other areas that they think they potentially may be interested in. Because then I think, you know, you won't be at a stage of life like I am when I'm an older person to ask, what if I had done that? You know what I mean? So don't take your whole lifetime exploring, but explore nonetheless.
And I think the decisions you make now, yes, they're important, but they're not setting you on a path that you have to stick on for the rest of your life. So, you know, think about it carefully, but don't beat yourself up about it too much. They're not, you're not determining your life with these decisions. Okay, well, thank you very much for joining us, and thank you for all the information. I'm sure that's a big help to our Form 5 students.
I hope so. Thank you very much, Emma. Thank you to College Tengku Jaffa.
Okay, nice to see you again in KTJ. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.